The Supreme Court gets a new Chief Justice on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is September 29th, 2023. It is the 272nd day of the year. You got 93 days left in 2023. It is the 39th Friday in the 39th week and the 7th day of fall. There are 83 days left until winter. Today is National Coffee Day. The history of National Coffee Day is a little bit cloudy. Nobody knows when it started or who started it, but for some reason, it landed on September 29th. The history of coffee itself clearly goes back to the 15th century in Yemen. As for Europeans, they got their first taste of coffee about 100 years later, with Venice leading the way. It wasn't a total smooth ride for coffee in Europe, because back in the day, the church had to get involved in everything, and they decided that coffee was invented by Satan. Yes, that was a thing for a while. So it became an underground thing, and of course, when you make things underground, now everyone wants it more. So have a cup of coffee today, and thumb your nose at the Spanish Inquisition. All right, let's see what else September 29th has given us. 1959, a Lockheed L-188 Electra crashes in Buffalo, Texas, killing 34 people. 1988, NASA launches STS-26, the first space shuttle mission since the Challenger disaster. 2004, the asteroid 4179 Totatus, I think that's how you pronounce it, passes within 4 lunar distances from Earth, which is 4 times the distance from Earth to the moon. 2005, John Roberts is confirmed as the Chief Justice of the United States. And lately, if you follow the news, they've been in the news a lot. Apparently, the justices been taking a lot of gifts from very wealthy people that had business in front of the Supreme Court. So that's never good. But oddly enough, there's really no laws against it. Which it's hard to pass laws when you're on the Supreme Court against yourself. Well, I'm sure it's not hard, but it's a little strange if you ask me. 2008, the stock market crashes after the first United States House of Representatives vote on the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act fails, leading to the Great Recession. The Emergency Economic Stabilization Act, or EESA, was a piece of legislation passed in 2008 as a response to the global financial crisis that had severely affected the United States financial system and pretty much everyone's financial system. Its primary purpose was to restore liquidity and stability to the financial markets, preventing a complete collapse of major financial institutions that were overwhelmed with distressed assets, particularly those tied to the subprime mortgage. Now, if you don't know what that means, basically banks got greedy and they started giving home loans to anyone, even people that had horrible credit. That's why it's the subprime. Well, major financial institutions would buy, let's say, a block of them. Let's say there's 100 of these mortgages in a package, right? So they'd sell them to, I don't know, Lehman Brothers or something like that. So Lehman Brothers would buy them from someone else, and they think they're getting 100 of prime mortgages, meaning all the people on here have good credit. Well, the people that were selling them were adding a bunch of subprime people in there, houses that were probably going to foreclose pretty soon. Nobody cared because everyone was making money on this. There's quite a few good movies about this that you should probably watch. 2 of the best movies are The Big Short, that had Steve Carell, Christian Bale, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, Marissa Tomei. That one's my favorite. The next one was Margin Call. That was really good also. These are movies about the crisis, but if you want to see a documentary on it, watch The Inside Job. That is, it'll make you angry. For whatever the reason, whatever they were doing, in the end, the American taxpayer bailed these banks out. Anyway, back to what Congress did. As part of this act, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, was established, granting the U.S. Treasury the authority to purchase up to $700 billion in troubled assets from these institutions. The hope was by removing these toxic assets from the bank's balance sheets, it would free them up to start lending again, thereby stimulating economic activity. Over time, as the economy stabilized, and many of the distressed assets were sold at a profit or recovered its value, a significant portion of the expended TARP funds were recouped, thus reducing the overall cost of the program to the taxpayers. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of this last part, but one of the things they had in there was limiting what executives for these financial institutions could receive, like as in bonuses and executive compensation. I do know there were some issues with some of the executives getting giant bonuses because of this bailout, and they basically used bailout money for it, and I know some people got in trouble. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it is very interesting. Movies released on September 29th, 1993, one of the greatest movies ever, A Bronx Tale. The biggest crime of this crime drama is it never won an Academy Award, and it should have. This is a crime drama in which a father becomes worried about his son when local gangsters befriend him, like older mafia type guys befriend his young son. The movie is based on star Chaz Palminteri's 1989 play of the same name. Robert De Niro was the star of this movie also, and he directed the film. It had its premiere at the Toronto Film Festival and was a Golden Lion nominee at the Venice Film Festival. The movie also had Joe Pesci in it for a small part. Lilo Brancato played the young boy. But there was another actress in there who was also in The Sopranos, Catherine Narducci. I always liked her, but she played Robert De Niro's wife in it. If you ever get a chance, if you've ever seen A Bronx Tale, definitely watch it. Born on September 29, 1935, Jerry Lee Lewis, rock and roll musician who was known for the hit Great Balls of Fire and Breathless. He also married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown. He was 22. Now, at the time, this was just not okay. I mean, it was legal. I think they did in Alabama. But that kind of ruined his popularity at the time. He really went through a tough spot because of it. Those two were married for 13 years. He was also married 7 times in total. When he was in college, I guess you could say, he went to Southwest Bible Institute. He was expelled for playing rock and roll music, which they deemed the devil's music. He just died last October 28th in 2022. He was 87 years old. Died on September 29, 2010, we lost Tony Curtis. He was an actor who was known for being in a lot of really good movies. Some Like It Hot, Spartacus, Operation Petticoat, which I loved, The Defiant Ones. He was in The Count of Monte Cristo, The Last Tycoon, The Bad News Bears Go to Japan. In later years, he started doing a lot of TV shows. He'd be on for like 1 or 2 episodes, but he was busy his entire life. In 1974, Tony Curtis developed a pretty heavy drug and alcohol problem. He was actually rushed to the hospital suffering from advanced cirrhosis. He entered the Betty Ford Clinic and vowed to overcome his various illnesses. He underwent a heart bypass surgery in 1994 after suffering a heart attack. On July 8, 2010, Curtis, who was suffering from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, was hospitalized in Las Vegas after suffering an asthma attack during a book signing engagement in Henderson, Nevada, where he lived. Curtis died at his home in Henderson, Nevada on September 29, 2010 of cardiac arrest. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.